This is Justin Lanier from the Disturbing the Peace podcast, and you are listening to Pop Goes Your World.
I'm Chris McBrien, and the pop culture from Generation X is everything to me.
And I'm Derek Myers, and I'm here to educate Chris on the great pop culture of today's generation.
Episode 97, Movies We've Never Seen. Chris McBrien here, along with Caveman Derek Myers himself. You're going to find him on Twitter at Amaron_DM. You'll find me on Twitter at CMcBrien. Just remember, McBrien is I-E-N. And if you head over to popgoesyourworld.com, you'll find all of our contact information there. Caveman, Derek, how you doing this week? What's new in the world of pop culture for you?
Hey, Chris, I am doing great, thanks. I need to tell you, I've had a great pop culture week.
How so? Please tell.
So, this is the first week in a long time where I've had a little bit of time with nothing to do. So I have made a point of watching some movies that I've always wanted to watch, some of which have been on my PVR for a long time, others which have just recently come out, and because I had time, I made a point of seeing them. And this is timely because one of the movies on this list would have made my top 5 tonight if I hadn't watched it already this week. So, real quick, I saw 4 different full-length movies this week. The first one was Tootsie.
Oh, I was going to get you to watch that for the podcast.
I've never seen it.
And I'm always talking about it. What do you think?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. I was talking it up a couple weeks ago. Oh, that's so glad.
I really, really enjoyed it. I'm a fairly big fan of Dustin Hoffman, and I had heard a lot about this movie, and I had seen bits and pieces of it. I watched it start to finish. Again, it had been on the Turner Classic Movies. They had done like the 30 days of Oscars leading up to the Oscar Awards. So I had a bunch of like classics on my PVR, and this was like one of the last ones I hadn't seen yet. And it was great. I loved it. I was so glad I watched it. And had I not watched it before this recording, this would have been on my top 5 list. So I made a point of making sure I watched it before this week so that I couldn't put it on the list. Because now I can say I've seen Tootsie.
And as much as you liked Dustin Hoffman in that movie, but what about all the supporting characters like Terry Garr and Bill Murray? I mentioned him the other week. Jessica Lange, Dabney Coleman, even Sidney Pollack, the director. There's so many good supporting characters. George Gaines.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, there were a few sort of ideas that I don't think hold up so well by today's lens, but I think the time in which the movie came out, they were absolutely relevant, even cutting edge, even sort of ahead of their time. The idea that once he was seeing the world through the eyes of a woman, he was able to stand up and say like, hey, this is wrong. These things shouldn't be this way. And I mean, it's unfortunate now that we have to say it took a man to make this change, but I think it was an important social commentary at the time. And I think the message itself that the woman's voice needs to be heard and that the women's voice is every bit as important as a man's voice, exceptionally important in the 80s when it came out in this movie, but just as relevant today.
Very good. I'm glad you saw that. What else did you see?
So, I saw 2 movies that both won Oscars this year. I saw the animated movie Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, and how was that?
It was quite good. And I mean, I'm a big comic book nerd, so you know, I was going to see this movie either way. And it was quite good. It was very strong. If you're familiar with the comic books, the various Spider-Man comic books, there's a lot of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's some Easter eggs for you. But if you don't know anything about any of the Spider-Man comic books or the various permutations of Spider-Man that have come out in the last 15 years, that's fine. The movie does an exceptionally good job of leveling the playing field for everybody and telling a good story. And there's a very good post-credits scene, as with most Marvel movies, that'll just make you laugh your butt off. So Into the Spider-Verse, exceptionally good. The other Oscar movie I saw was called Free Solo. It won the Best Documentary Film.
Oh, that looks great.
It was premiered on the National Geographic Channel this week. It was it's
the rock climbing one, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about Alex Honnold, I think is how you pronounce his name. He is a free climber. So he's a mountain climber who takes pride in climbing without a rope or any safety gear. So He obviously does some climbing with safety ropes and safety gear to sort of map out his path. Like basically he does a test run with the rope to understand where the most tricky parts of the climb are going to be and test out various ways to do them so that when he does them without the rope, he's less likely to fall and sustain injury. And it's a 2-hour documentary. Well, I mean, with commercials, it was a 2-hour documentary on the National Geographic Channel. It was fantastic. I mean, in my opinion, a documentary done right is going to be an A+. This one was absolutely A+++. Was super good. Absolutely deserving of its Best Picture Oscar. Free Solo. If you can find a copy of it, if it's on the National Geographic Channel again, I strongly recommend you see it. It was so good.
Very nice. Very good. For my pop culture this week, I'm going back. Other than, I mean, you did Tootsie. That was an older one. Other than that, you did newer stuff. Mine is going way back. As you know, I've got 2 young boys, and I mention them on the podcast all the time. And one of the things that I do with them is I try to inject older pop culture stuff into their lives, and I make them watch all this stuff. And one of the things I've been making them watch lately is Sesame Street. And so Sesame Street was a big part of my childhood. I loved Sesame Street.
Wait.
Yep.
Is Sesame Street not still on the air doing new episodes right now?
I believe it is, but what I'm talking about is I'm talking about the old stuff, like from the 70s. I made them watch like episodes from the 70s because I have watched some of the newer ones, and I'm like, it's just not the same. There's like different characters and stuff. It's not the same. And they're like, what do you mean? It's the same. It's just, I guess their reaction is like yours. It's like, it's still on the air. It's the same thing. No, it's not. And so I went back and I made them watch a bunch of stuff from the 70s. It's all on YouTube. You can find it all. And they agree with me. They're like, oh my God, Dad, this stuff is so good. So there's things. Did you watch it as a child?
Absolutely.
I think we all did, you know, and some of the stuff has just been an unbelievable flood of nostalgia for me. And there's so much stuff that I had forgotten all about. And some of it was like the Sesame Street news flashes with Kermit the Frog, where he goes on site and it's usually like nursery rhymes and stuff and like Humpty Dumpty, and then he'll go to, like, the one that I loved was Pinocchio, and then like this Pinocchio, I can't even explain it. It's just so funny, and we're all laughing watching this, and we just love it. And then there was this little kid, John, who used to count, and he was just so funny, and he'd count with Grover, and I remember that. And then there's this thing called the Song of whatever number, and it goes up to 10. And then,
yes. Yeah, those I know.
And they do like one, and then they would do like one bird, one cow. And then at the end, it would be a baker with like one wedding cake, and he would fall down the stairs, and like kids just love it. And then the last one was, remember the pinball? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. You know it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
It's, anyway, all of this stuff from the 70s, they absolutely love it. And then we put on regular TV the other day, and Sesame Street was on, and they're like, Daddy, it's not the same. I'm like, I told you. So I'm injecting that Gen X into their lives, and I just love it. So that's what I've been doing.
Nice. The one other thing I want to mention, Chris, is last night, my wife and I went and saw the movie, the new Marvel comic books movie, Captain Marvel, on its premiere, on the night of premiere last night. We went and saw it. And you know me, huge comic book nerd. I've seen every Marvel movie. I've seen every DC movie. I've read all the comics. We saw Captain Marvel. It was just okay.
Oh, not good, eh?
Well, it was good, but I wasn't the target audience. Like, this is a movie. This is absolutely 100%. This is a girl power movie. This is a movie for the female audience to show them a female superhero doing everything that the male superheroes do and then some. Very much like the Wonder Woman movie. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but for me personally, it wasn't an A++ movie. I would give it like a B+. It in my opinion, it was good, but it wasn't exceptional. But my wife thought it was great. She gave it an A++. So I think this is one of those examples where the boys are going to see something different in the movie than the girls see something, and the girls who watch it are going to love it, and they have every reason to love it. So again, for me, it was good, but not great. But I think if you are a female listener, or if you've got young girls you want to take to see it, your children are girls, definitely bring them to see it. I mean, it's a Marvel movie. It's got a certain level of quality that you've come to expect, and it absolutely meets that benchmark. But for me, not quite there.
This is the one with Brie Larson in the tights, right?
Sure. We'll say Brie Larson in the tights. Sure, we'll go with that.
I could probably sit through that.
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah.
Anyway, are you ready to get started for this week's topic?
Yes, I am.
Let's go.
I mean, we love him, we hate him, we agree, we disagree.
Freddie Mercury is the greatest singer who ever was. He is the greatest singer that ever will be.
Some of the things in Freddie Mercury's real life were possibly X-rated.
There is no way Rocky was a better movie than Taxi Driver.
I love this idea.
Probably the greatest film that's ever made.
And I just picked it on a whim.
And we can have a couple beers and we can play Escape from the Death Star.
Walking in a winter wonderland. I try to pick something Christmas.
This is a bargain trick question! Okay, so this kind of the topic for this week kind of had a little bit of an origin. I'll just explain it quickly. The other week, my wife and I, it was like a Saturday night where we put the kids to bed and we're like, oh, we're going to watch a movie tonight. What are we going to watch? And I put on Netflix, we're flipping around, and it comes up and I see Schindler's List. And I said to my wife, I said, oh, you know what? I've never seen Schindler's List. And she's like, what? You are like the biggest film buff of all time that I've ever met. How could you have never seen Schindler's List? I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen it. Anytime that I've wanted to see it, like it's like 3.5 hours long. It's like I just don't have the time or whatever. I for whatever reason, I've just never seen it. It's also about a topic that's very difficult. You know, so it's like, I don't know, it's not a lot of fun to watch. So I don't know, for whatever reason, never watched it. So I did watch it, and I'm glad that I watched it. I thought it was great. But then it got me thinking, and it made me realize that even as a massive film buff, there's a lot of like, quote unquote, you know, great movies or, you know, movies that we should see that I realized there's a lot of movies that I haven't seen. And even being the buff that I am. And I think that it goes true for a lot of people. I did a little bit of an informal poll on Twitter this week, and I found out like there's people out there that hadn't seen Jaws, you know, and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Or Harry Potter movies.
Or Harry Potter.
People are like, I've never seen any of the Harry Potter. I've never seen any of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, Star Wars, Titanic, all like the and so I realized like I think that, you know, there's movies that we quote unquote everyone should have seen, I guess, you know, for lack of a better term. But there's a lot of movies that we haven't seen that we're supposed to see. So I thought that we would put together a top 5 list this week. We'll go back and forth with our lists of what these movies are. And I think there's some surprises. I'm really looking forward to getting into this. We do not share our lists ahead of time when we do this, so it should be a lot of fun. But why don't you start us off? Starting at number 5, we're going to work our way up to number 1. What's your number 5 movie that you have never seen that might surprise us? Caveman, okay, take us away.
Okay, so I got to say, preparing for this episode was definitely one of the hardest top 5 lists I've ever had to do since we started doing this exercise.
Well, why is that?
So, partly because it's embarrassing. Like you said, we're movie guys. Like we hold ourselves up to the social media and say we have seen more movies than you. We have an opinion about stuff that we feel we are experts more than the next guy. Like we really think a lot of ourselves and of our credibility as film aficionados. And to admit that we haven't seen some of these movies,
it's embarrassing.
Exceptionally embarrassing. And it's not to say that
if you want embarrassing, you got to go back and listen to the episode that I did with Yancey on our guilty pleasures. God, some of that I was just embarrassed myself. But oh man.
Yeah. So it was a combination of I'm embarrassed to admit I haven't seen these movies, and that's not to say that I'm never going to see these movies. It's just I've never made a point of making the time to see these, except for like in this case Tootsie. I made the time this week to see it, so I didn't have to put it on the list. But it's also an example of you don't know what you don't know. And I found it was hard to come up with a list of movies I hadn't seen because I kept thinking, well, I've seen that. And I asked people I know, I'm like, look, you've known me for a long time. Can you remember me ever saying, I've never seen that movie? Or if they brought up a movie and they made a reference and I'm like, I don't get the reference because I've never seen the movie. And as my friends were throwing movie titles at me, I kept saying, no, I've seen that. No, I've seen that. I've seen that. Seen it. Even my wife sent me a list of like 20 movies. She's like, here are 20 movies I don't think you've seen. I had seen 19 out of the 20. And the 20th movie on the list, I had seen bits and pieces of. So I'm like, although I haven't seen it, I know enough about it that I could probably BS my way through a discussion on it. And she's like, wow, I can't think of movies you haven't seen. So, yeah, this was a really tough discussion. Now, Chris, the other thing was, I said to you when we came up with this idea, it would be easy for us to come up with 5 movies that are considered quote-unquote classics, textbook classics that would be taught in any Film 101 school. And that's a boring podcast to listen to. Here are movies from the 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s that you've never seen. Nobody's seen those movies. So that's not interesting podcasting. So I said to you, let's put a few newer movies on this list that people, no matter what demographic they fall into, whether they're Generation X or millennials, are going to be like, how could you have never seen that movie before?
Yeah, you did. You challenged me. You were like, you got to put some movies on your list from like the 90s and the 2000s. And I did, so.
And so have I. Now, in all fairness, I have a couple of like huge classics on this list that I've never seen that people are going to like laugh at me for not having seen. But I have some newer ones on here too. So, number 5 on my list,
yes.
I have never, ever seen this movie, The Sound of Music. 1965, Sound of Music, never seen it. Now, in all fairness, it's a musical. Yeah. I am not a big fan of musicals. I've also been told it is about World War II and the Nazis. Again, I've never seen the movie, so I can't say for certain if that's the case, but that doesn't necessarily pique my interest. As a movie about the war and a movie that's a musical, that's 2 big strikes. This is one of those ones where I don't think I'm ever going to see this movie. There's nothing that I know about this movie that makes me want to see it. Have you seen The Sound of Music, Chris?
I have not, and I have no desire to see it either. When I was growing up, my mom and my sisters would watch it all the time. I would just leave the room. And this is back when it wasn't like I could go in the other room and put on Netflix. Like we had one TV, and I don't care. I'd rather go in the other room and like look at the wall. I've never watched that movie. I have no desire to watch that movie.
Yeah, and that was one of the things when we were putting the list together. There were certain movies that I realized, certain genres that I realized kept coming up. So I am not a big fan of horror movies. So there were a lot of horror movies I had never seen, but I'm like, you know what? That's not a genre I'm interested in. And if we want to do a topic about give me 5 horror movies you've never seen, fine, I'll do that. Musicals were another one. I'm not a big fan of musicals. I'm sure I could come up with a dozen musicals I've never seen. I have no desire to ever see them. So I figured The Sound of Music was my one and done. I'll admit I've never seen The Sound of Music, and there's a very good chance I will never see The Sound of Music. I'm done. That was my number 5.
Yeah, you couldn't drag me to watch that movie with a roll of duct tape and an ether rag and a wheelbarrow. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that movie. I'm not going to ever see that movie. Okay, so that's a good one. And I'm with you on that. I've never seen it, nor will I ever. So for my number 5, I used a bit of a catch-all for this one. And I'm going to go with some animated movies. So even though I have kids, there's some really popular animated movies that I have never seen. And these ones might surprise you. But I've never seen Shrek. Okay. And people are like, I can't believe you haven't seen that movie. It's like, I've never seen it. From 1992, I have never seen Aladdin.
Wow.
And
okay.
Beauty and the Beast, never seen it. Frozen, never seen it. And then this is the one that I think might surprise you the most. I've never seen Toy Story.
The first one?
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, let's pause the recording. Go watch Toy Story. But you've seen Toy Story 2 and 3, haven't you?
No, I've seen Toy Story 3. I watched Toy Story 3 and I was like, oh my God, it's so good. And Toy Story, the first one, I have seen bits of it. Like I've seen a little bit here and a little bit there because my kids watch it and I caught bits of it and I don't know. It just wasn't grabbing me. And so, I mean, I've literally seen, if the movie's an hour and a half, I've probably seen about 4 minutes of it, tops.
Wow. I would say I have seen Toy Story in its entirety. I think 50 times is probably, if you were betting the over and under, 50 would probably be the under. I have seen this movie so many times. When I was at university, I had a Laserdisc player. We're talking late 90s, Laserdisc, 12-inch. They basically look like CDs. They're 12 inches. You got to flip them over halfway through. I had about 6 Laserdiscs. Toy Story 1 was one of the first Laserdiscs I ever bought for my player. And when you only have 2 or 3 Laserdiscs, you tend to watch them over and over and over and over and over again. Toy Story was one of them. I must have watched it 50 times. There's nothing about this movie that I dislike. I would watch it. I come home from university. I'd be like, I got 90 minutes to kill. What am I going to do? I'm going to throw on Toy Story while I tidy up the house. And it is so good on so many levels. We did a whole podcast on animated movies, and Toy Story was – I think Toy Story was my number 1. It was so good. Chris, you have to do yourself a favor and watch Toy Story. Sit down, give it your undivided attention, watch it start to finish, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised about how good it really is and how much it holds up, given that it's over 20 years old now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's great, but I've just never seen it. But I'll tell you what, I'll watch it if you watch The Sound of Music.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if I can make that deal.
Yeah, well, okay. So what do you got for your number 4 movie that you've never seen that's going to surprise us?
Number 4 movie I've never seen. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. 1966, Sergio Leone starring Clint Eastwood. I've never seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Lee Van Cleef is in it too, right? Isn't it?
I couldn't tell you.
You don't know. You haven't seen it. I haven't seen it either, so I don't know.
Really?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay.
Oh.
So I'm not a huge fan of Westerns, but I've seen my fair share. And Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven is one of my all-time favorite movies. Probably makes my all-time top 20, top 25 movies of all time. And that's another one that I've probably seen 20 times or more. I had to study it in one of my university classes. We watched the movie as part of one of our sections in the class. We had to write a paper on it. At the final exam, we had done like a dozen movies, and you could pick the ones you wanted to do your essay on. And The Unforgiven was one of the ones I picked my topic on. I know this movie backwards and forwards. There was a remake of Unforgiven done starring Ken Watanabe, who has been in a number of American films, and it was like a Japanese sort of samurai style movie. It was the entire script of Unforgiven done in Japanese in like feudal Japan, and it worked so well. The movie is so good on so many levels. And so for me to say and admit, embarrassingly so, I've never seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Like that was one of the first spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood. Like that, you have the whole series of The Man with No Name. From what I've heard from everybody, they're like, that is where it starts, and Unforgiven is where it ends. Well, I've seen Unforgiven more times than I care to admit. I've never seen where it starts. I've never seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and everyone keeps telling me you have to make time to watch it. And I remember when it was on video cassette, it was 2 videos, so it's obviously a very long movie, but I've never seen it.
Okay, so this one didn't make my list, but you're going to kill me. I've never seen Unforgiven.
Really?
Yep, never seen it.
Wow. Now, knowing the kind of movies you do and don't like,
Mm-hmm.
you may find Unforgiven a little slow at the pacing is quite slow, but it's one of these movies where it has this huge payoff. The last half an hour, you're like, okay, I see. It was building to this. And it's this very slow burn, but you have Clint Eastwood and you have Morgan Freeman and you have Gene Hackman and you have this essentially like this showdown at the end where everything comes to a head and the movie just has a resolution where you're like, yeah, that's how this movie needs to end. If you've got some time, you should Toy Story first,
right?
Unforgiven second. But my number 4 on my list, movies I've never seen: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's good. Yeah, how am I supposed to watch Unforgiven when I just keep watching Stripes and Meatballs for the 10 millionth time? Okay, so I mentioned before I'm a massive movie buff, huge film buff, and I like all these classics. If you look online, I think you could find, if you looked up like critics lists, and I know you said you didn't want to go too textbook. I'm going to go with one textbook one on here, okay? If you looked up critics lists of all-time greatest films ever, I think it's going to be universal that it's number 1 will be Citizen Kane, and number 2 will probably be Casablanca. And then it kind of goes from there. I've seen Citizen Kane. I love it. I think it's phenomenal. I've never seen Casablanca.
Really?
Yep, never seen it.
Wow.
I know it's surprising because I'm like this film buff, and it's like one of the greatest films ever made. I've never seen it.
Wow.
Never seen it.
Another one.
Yep.
I had not seen it until I went to university. I started taking communications courses. I started taking like film appreciation and all these other things. Casablanca was one of those ones I had to watch at school for credit. And once I watched it once, I was like, this movie's great. Wait, they're giving me credit to watch this movie and write an essay about it? And I immediately went out and bought the DVD. I've seen it probably 10 times. And it is every bit as good as the critics say. Like, Chris, this is one of those ones that and I think we're going to be constantly saying this. There's a reason people say this is one of the best movies. Yep. It is absolutely one of the best movies. It is great. It holds up. Well, I haven't seen it in a number of years, so I can't necessarily say it holds up, but for what it is,
I would say if it held up from 1942 to like 1992, it's probably held up until now.
Yeah. I mean, some of the one of the things I find with those like really old movies, the style of acting doesn't hold up. Like the way actors acted in the 40s and 50s is different than the way actors act now. So that in itself doesn't hold up.
Yeah, they all came from the theater, right? So
yeah,
all of them came from the theater.
Yeah, but the story, the script, the way it, like, again, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away, but the movie is quite good, and there's a reason that it makes the top lists. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not watching it.
I know.
So,
I know it's great. I mean, I know lots about it. I know it's, film noir. It's just, it's an incredible use of the medium, and it's got everything in it, and I've just never seen it. It's just the way it is. I don't know.
Now, I will tell you, often the line, "Play it again, Sam," is credited to that movie. Don't actually say it though, right? That is not the actual quote. The quote, if I remember correctly, is, "You played it for her, play it for me. Play it for me, Sam," I think is the quote, not "play it again, Sam." So, again, just one of those little details that often gets, changed in the course of time as people's memory starts to cloud a bit. But yeah, that is one that you should be very embarrassed to admit you've never seen, Chris.
I am, and that's why it made my list. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you got for your number 3?
Okay, number 3, something much newer. We did a whole show on animated movies.
Yes.
And I sang the virtues of the Pixar animation studio and how great they are. And we just talked about Toy Story. Toy Story being their crown jewel, the first one out of the gate, which you could argue they have never met that milestone since then because it was so revolutionary and so good for what it was. And every time Pixar puts out a movie, I'm at the theater the opening weekend because Pixar does no wrong. I have seen every Pixar movie that has ever been made. Wait, I have not seen every Pixar movie that's ever been made. I have not seen the Pixar movie Cars, nor have I seen Cars Part 2 or Cars Part 3. They made 3 Cars movies. I have not seen any of them. And as someone who likes to talk about how I'm hip, I watch what the kids watch. I have never seen the Pixar animated movie Cars or any of its sequels. And I think I have to hang my head in shame just a little bit to say, as someone who thinks Pixar can do no wrong, I don't know what it is, but I have not yet watched, nor do I have any desire to watch, Cars.
But have you seen Planes?
That's one of the Cars movies, isn't it?
No, I don't know. It's kind of like a spin-off or something, I guess.
Nope, never seen it. I knew it was part of the quote-unquote Cars world. And from what I've heard, in the Cars movie, there's a lot of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, where they make reference to other Disney movies, other Pixar movies. There's a lot of stuff that's in there for adults and stuff that's in there for film aficionados like you and I. I've never seen Cars. And for some strange reason, I have no desire to ever see Cars.
I have 2 young kids, and I've never seen it either. And I know what happens in it because my one kid has a picture book of Cars, and I used to read it to him all the time. So I know what happens in the story, but I've never seen the movie. I've never seen all 3 of them. And to make things worse, I have not seen Cars 1, 2, or 3, but I went to the movie theater to see number 3. So how does that happen? How do I go to the movie theater but not watch it? I fell asleep. I'm not kidding. So there I am with my kids, and there's the old man sleeping. I fell asleep in the movie theater watching it. It was so bad.
Well, for me, the number 3 pick, it was a debate. It was either Cars or Frozen. But I figure as someone without kids, it's not really expected that I would have ever seen Frozen. We've already established I don't really like musicals. And as someone with no kids, it's a newer Disney movie. Now, I've heard from people who have kids that it's actually a pretty good Disney movie, and the songs, as catchy as they are, and as much as they're like earworm, they're going to ingrain themselves in your brain. I was like, you know what? I don't think people would really care that much that I haven't seen Frozen, but I think Cars, as someone who's like been on and on about how great Pixar is, that's the one that's a little more embarrassing for me. So my number 3 was Cars.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And not to cut down, movies or bisect them along gender lines. But I mean, if you don't have you said you don't have kids, but even if you don't have a little girl, see Frozen. If I got 2 boys, they just never wanted to see it. So no desire to go see that movie, so I never saw it either. Okay, so we're on number 3. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I'm going to mention it again. And Yancey used to always get on my case because he's a millennial, but he'd seen this and I never have. I have never seen this movie nor any of its sequels, and that's 1979's Alien.
Wow, really? You've never seen the first or the second Alien?
No, never seen any of them. I saw parts of Alien. I remember when it was on the movie channel when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11. It had come on the movie channel in like 80, 81, something like that. And so I'd seen like parts of it here and there, but I've never watched the whole movie. The only scene I think I remember watching was when the thing's on John Hurt's face and they cut it and the blood goes through the floor and it's like acid and it goes through all these multiple floors. And then that's the only scene I'd ever seen. And then about 2 years ago, I flipping around TV and Alien is on TV. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen Alien. And it's the scene where the blood goes through the 7 floors again. I'm like, what is the chances of this? So no, I've never seen the movie. Hard to believe.
Wow.
You've seen it, I guess, right?
Love it, love it, love it. This is one of those rare examples where you could argue the sequel is better than the first one.
Yeah, I've heard that. Wasn't it James Cameron that did the sequel Aliens?
It sure was. I mean, Ridley Scott did the first one, and it was groundbreaking. It was so good. And then James Cameron came around and went, I'm gonna one up Ridley Scott. And I mean, you gotta have some balls on you to be able to say, I'm gonna one up Ridley Scott, but he totally did. And not in a bad way, but he basically went, I'm going to take this intellectual property that someone's come up with, which, is great in its own right, and I'm going to improve on it.
I don't even think it's James Cameron's best sequel that he's ever done.
No, like T2 is arguably.
No, I was thinking more of Piranha 2, The Spawning.
Was that Cameron?
Yeah, it was James Cameron's first movie. So Piranha was a movie from 1978, and I just loved it with Bradford Dillman and Heather Menzies. And then there was a sequel, and James Cameron did that. But in this one, the piranhas actually have wings, and they fly through the air and chomp people.
Oh, well, everyone's got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, But no, so I've never seen Alien. Never seen it, but I've heard the same thing, just like what you're saying. I've heard Alien 2 is phenomenal, and then didn't they have like Alien Revolution or something, and then Alien versus Predator, and that was just kind of like a B-movie kind of crap thing. But I've never seen Alien. I know I need to see it. I gotta watch this thing. I mean, it's like science fiction and horror kind of mixed, right? Isn't the idea?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The first one definitely treads that line between horror and sci-fi. I mean, it's sci-fi because it's set on a spaceship in outer space in the future, but it's horror in the sense of, there's this suspense of there's a creature on the ship and you don't know where it is and you don't know what its intentions are and you don't know who's been sort of co-opted by this alien or whether it's going to jump out at you or whatever. Oh, it's so good on so many levels.
Is it the first one or the second one that's got that iconic image of Sigourney Weaver where she's turned toward the camera and she's sweating and the thing's got like a mouth and it's coming out of the mouth and the mouth is coming out toward her? Is that from the first one?
The
scene I mean, like
in a couple of them. I want to say it's the third one, Alien 3, directed by David Fincher. There was definitely a scene where the alien is literally right in her face, and she turns away at the last second, and the little mouth comes out, and then it just sort of it's like rah, but it doesn't bite her or attack her, and you're
maybe
like,
it's that.
What is going on here? Again, don't want to give too much away, but the third one had its problems, but David Fincher, I mean, the guy made Seven, the guy made Fight Club. He knows how to make a movie, and after following Ridley Scott and James Cameron, those are two exceptionally difficult acts to follow, but Alien 3 has its moments as well. So anyway,
there you go.
We'll definitely revisit this in a future podcast because if you haven't seen these movies, I am going to absolutely nominate.
Yeah, you should.
For you.
You should. I think that's a good point. It's a learning opportunity for us here tonight. So it's all good. So what are we on our number 2? What do you got for your number 2?
All right. I've got two left. One is a very more recent, well, not very, but it's a more recent movie, and the other one is a classic. So I'm going to go with the new movie for number 2. I've never seen Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Oh, me neither.
Jeez. So 1994, Jim Carrey, hot as a pistol, coming off of In Living Color. He is the it guy. He does Ace Ventura. And everyone's like, oh my God, this guy's a comedic genius. And then he does The Mask, he does Ace Ventura 2, he does Liar Liar, and you're like, oh my God, this guy is the it guy. Look at all these fantastic movies he's doing. He is. How did we never know who this guy was before? And he's Canadian. Great. Bonus. Awesome. I've seen all those other movies. Well, I haven't seen Ace Ventura 2, but I've seen The Mask. I've seen Liar Liar. I've seen him in his more serious turns in like Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman movie. And I like Jim Carrey in some, and he's in a new HBO, I think it's HBO series called Kidding, which is quite good. If you're looking for something to binge, the first season is done. The second season's coming out soon. It's great as well. But back in 1994, Ace Ventura, that's what put him on the map. He went from being a star to being a superstar. This is what gave him the cred to earn a huge paycheck. And people who are big fans of his work swear by this. They say Ace Ventura is his best movie he's ever done. I wouldn't say I'm a mega fan of Jim Carrey. I'm a fan. I can appreciate his work. But I find I'm a little more hit and miss. And this is one that I'm just like, never really had any strong desire to see. I've seen the trailers. I know sort of what the movie's about. And there's really nothing that's motivated me to say, this is the day. I have 90 minutes. I'm going to watch this Ace Ventura 1 and find out what everyone's talking about. No, never seen it. No real desire to see it.
I kind of agree with you on Jim Carrey. I was never a huge fan of his. He did Ace Ventura. I never went to see it. I thought it looked stupid. I thought it looked kind of dumb. And then what was you mentioned The Mask? I actually liked The Mask. I thought The Mask was good. And to me, Liar Liar was his best movie because to me, that movie is the perfect vehicle for his talent, but still keeping him grounded. Whereas in Ace Ventura, it's just craziness. Like, it's just out of control. At least Liar Liar, because the fact that he's a lawyer and he's wearing a suit, like, it keeps him somewhat grounded in reality, but it is the perfect vehicle to allow him to be that rubber-faced person that he is and just to kind of go crazy and improvise in the moment. And so I like Liar Liar. I thought it was outstanding. I think it's a little underrated, actually. I think it's one of the better comedies of the last 25 years. But Ace Ventura, no desire to see it. Never going to see it. The Mask was a little movie. It kind of went underappreciated. It kind of came and went. But I saw that and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. He was actually pretty good in that movie.
And with The Mask, Cameron Diaz, it was one of her first.
It was her first movie.
Big movie breakouts. I mean, she wasn't quote unquote the star of the movie, but she had a pretty significant role. Again, I'm not a big fan of Cameron Diaz. I mean, Something About Mary, not a movie I really cared for, although I'm not a big fan of Ben Stiller either. So that one sort of had two strikes going into it for me. But yeah, The Mask I liked. Liar Liar I loved. Man on the Moon I loved. Ace Ventura, never had any desire to go back and see it. Despite what a lot of my friends keep telling me. They're like, dude, you have to see this. You may not like Jim Carrey, but you're going to laugh your butt off. We know the kind of humor you like. This is a movie for you. And it's just never – there's never been anything that has appealed to me to the point where I felt that I needed to watch it.
Yeah. The one thing about The Mask that I did like was there's a scene in it where he puts on the mask and he's that crazy character. And when he dances with Cameron Diaz, when they do that kind of like ballroom dance, but like on steroids. If anybody hasn't seen it, watch The Mask just for that scene. Or maybe you could find it on YouTube. I don't know if you can find the dance scene, but the dance scene where him and Cameron Diaz dance, oh my goodness, it is something else to watch. Like, it's something else. But I'm with you. Yeah, never seen Ace Ventura. No desire. Never will watch it. Okay, my number 2. This one's going to surprise you a little bit, and I'm worried. I'm getting worried on these last two that you might come through the microphone and strangle me. So let's just see how this goes. Okay.
You're going to pick my number 1.
Yeah. So just let me finish this one a little bit before you jump through the microphone and kill me. Okay. Lord of the Rings. So I went to see Lord of the Rings, the first one, The Fellowship of the Ring. I went to see that in the movie theater. I think it came out in 2000. And I went to see it in the movie theater. So I saw that. I have not seen the next two. So The Two Towers and The Return of the King, I haven't seen either one of those movies.
Sorry, I'm just biting my tongue.
I know. I know you're going to kill me, and I'm sorry. So the first one was good. I liked it, and I've read the books. I read the books as a teenager. I loved them. I've started. I read all of the Fellowship of the Ring to my oldest son. We started reading The Two Towers. The thing I think that I remembered is this. We started reading The Two Towers and we've put it down. We haven't gone back to it for a while because I forgot how much of an uphill climb that book is. And for anybody that hasn't read them, you've read them, right?
Yes, I have.
And do you agree with me? The Two Towers is just this massive uphill climb to read. That's what I find. And so anyway, so then a couple of years after, I think it was maybe a year or two after it came out, The Two Towers, I actually rented it on DVD. And I went home and I put it on and I started watching it and I actually turned it off. After like maybe 20 minutes tops, I turned it off. I'm like, you know what? I just can't watch this. I'm just not into this. And I never have even attempted to watch the third one. So although I did watch the first movie, I've never watched it again. I only watched it the one time when I was in the theater. I haven't watched it again. And I have not seen the next two Lord of the Rings movies. Please don't kill me, Caveman. I know you're upset.
Okay. Calm blue ocean. Calm blue ocean. Calm blue ocean. Okay. I don't know. That's a lot to unpack, Chris. Okay, give me a second here. Okay.
Oh man.
Calm blue ocean. Calm blue ocean. Okay.
It's like nerd rage is going to come through right now.
Yes. I'm like, it's a good thing I've had a little bit to drink before we do this podcast, or I might say something that, could end our friendship here.
Oh no. I know I'm in trouble for these next ones.
I'm a huge fan of fantasy literature. As we have discussed on a couple of the previous podcasts, I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd. I love fantasy role-playing games. I love fantasy literature. I love the whole swords and sorcery genre in just about every form you could possibly imagine.
It's a shock that you never got more girls in high school.
So when I was in high school, I read a lot of fantasy literature. But Lord of the Rings, the actual J.R.R. Tolkien Lord of the Rings trilogy was a series that I actually had a hard time getting into, largely for some of the reasons you've mentioned.
Interesting.
It is very thick. It is very dense. The books are like 600 pages a pop. And despite the fact that this was a genre I knew I was going to enjoy, the story took so many left turns before it sort of got going. It was a real problem for me to get into it. And then in the 90s, in the early 2000s, when they finally made these movies, and whenever there's a movie coming out for a series that I think I should read the book before I see the movie, I do. I make a point of reading the book because, as we've talked about on some of these previous podcasts, you see the movie and then you read the book after and you're like, the book, the movie wasn't as good as – I mean, the movie never seems to be as good as the book for a lot of these things. But I find it really difficult after you've seen the movie to read the book and enjoy the book to the level that you probably would have if you had seen it, if you had read it first. So with Lord of the Rings, this is one of those rare occasions where the opposite was true. I couldn't read the first book. I found it was just too difficult. And then I saw the first movie, The Fellowship of the Rings, and now that I understood what it was about and I knew how to pronounce the characters' names and I understood visually what was being depicted, I went back and read the first book. And as much as it was sort of a slog in certain parts, I could visualize it better because I was thinking of the scenes in the movies. And then with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, they released the movies, I think about a year apart, right? Like it was like bang, 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 1 year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I think it was like 2001, 2002, 2003.
Yeah, they were very close together.
Yeah.
And
I think they filmed them all simultaneously or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So between the release of the first movie and the release of the second movie, I read all 3 books in the Lord of the Rings, which, I mean, as an avid reader, it's not a big deal. But having had so much difficulty trying to get through the first book on a number of different occasions, it for me, it was a very significant milestone. I read the first book. Once I understood what it was about, I read the first book. I liked the first book. And then I read the second book and third book, and I was like, I couldn't put them down. I was like, boom, boom, boom. I got to read these books. And it was like eating my favorite food. I couldn't eat it fast enough. I was flipping the pages. I couldn't put it down. I was staying up late. I was, as soon as I was done school, as soon as I was done work, it was like read, get through these books. And then when the second and third movies came out, because I had read the books, I couldn't wait to watch these movies. But understanding that the whole reason I could get into the books in the first place was because I watched that first movie and I loved it so much. So for you to say that you rented the second movie, having already read the books, and couldn't get more than 20 minutes into it. That boggles my mind.
I know.
You know where the story's going. How do you turn it off and not watch the 2.5-hour spectacular spectacle that is the Two Towers and the Return of the King? Like, these movies were, I think one of my buddies said it best. Lord of the Rings were, for a generation, what Star Wars was for us. For younger people, that was their Star Wars. This was this giant, epic, 3-movie spectacular, full of special effects and monumental storytelling and the rise of a king, overwhelming odds, this terrible enemy, and that always stuck with me, that analogy of, we had Star Wars. We had Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. But for 20 years later, the millennial generation, they had the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So it just boggles my mind that you couldn't get through it.
Well, it keeps going downhill, because if our generation had the Star Wars trilogy, and then the next generation had the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the new generation has the Sharknado trilogy.
I think there's more than 3 in Sharknado, buddy.
Yeah, I know. There's even more of them. And to take this even a step further, then when I was a kid too, I read The Hobbit. So I actually read The Hobbit. I believe I read The Hobbit before Lord of the Rings. So I read The Hobbit, and then I read Lord of the Rings when I was younger, when I was a kid. And then what got me was, I haven't seen any of the Hobbit movies either, and they pissed me off. And here's why. Because the Lord of the Rings books are huge. Like, they're big, thick books, as you know, right? And so I understand each one of them, they should each have its own movie. I understand that. But then you got The Hobbit, this little tiny thin book, and they made that into 3 movies. And they only did it for one reason, and one reason only. That's money.
Cha-ching!
That just ticked me off. So I haven't seen any of the Hobbit movies either. But yeah, Lord of the Rings, gave up on it after one movie. I know.
Yeah,
you're going to kill
I haven't seen any of the Hobbit movies either, for exactly the reason you did. I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I watched the Lord of the Rings 3 movies. And then after that, I went back and read The Hobbit for the very first time. Loved it.
Oh, yeah, The Hobbit's good.
Heard they were making it into a movie. Was totally on board. Heard they were making it into 2 movies. I'm like, well, that makes sense. The book is in 2 parts. And then heard they were extending it to 3 for simply dollars. And I'm like, in that case, I'm not watching them. Yep. And I have not watched any of the 3 Hobbit movies. That just seemed like a dumb idea.
Yep.
Let's make this book into 3 movies. Pass.
Yep. Hard pass for me too. Okay. On to your number 1. What do you got?
All right. So all the scolding I've been giving you this whole podcast.
Yes.
It's time to flip the tables.
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
You're gonna reach through your microphone, and you're gonna strangle me. My number 1. I've never read the book. I've never seen the movie. To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, wow.
Never seen it. Never read it.
Okay, so I can forgive you somewhat on the movie end of things. I can kind of forgive that, but I can't forgive not reading the book. I just can't. And that seems weird because, I should be admonishing you for not watching the movie. But not watching the movie, I hadn't watched the movie. I watched the movie for the first time in, I would say, 2009, I think it was, before I first watched that movie. I'd never seen the movie either. I'd also not read the book until almost that time as well. So it was later in life when I actually went back and read the book. But the book, man, you got to read the book. You have got to read the book. The movie's good too. The movie is phenomenal. The kids that are in it are unbelievable, but most importantly, Gregory Peck in the lead role. He is just something else. But the movie's good, but the book is just like otherworldly good. But yeah, that's unfortunate, man. I think that instead of me saying you got to go watch the movie, I'm going to instead say you got to go read the book.
So last week or the week before, I was saying how I just rewatched for like the 10th time 12 Angry Men, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes, I remember that.
And it's the jury. It's the 12 men in the jury deciding the fate based on this case. So, again, I don't know a lot about To Kill a Mockingbird, but I know a big part of it is this trial. And so I kind of felt a little hypocritical thinking to myself, here I am saying how much I love 12 Angry Men and it's the greatest courtroom movie I've ever seen. But if I've never seen To Kill a Mockingbird, can I honestly say it's the greatest courtroom movie ever made if I haven't seen all the great courtroom movies? And I don't know. I've never seen it. But you've seen it. What do you think? Do I need to see this before I can make that declaration that 12 Angry Men is my favorite?
The thing is that the courtroom scene in 12 Angry Men is everything. It's the whole movie. It's not the whole movie of To Kill a Mockingbird. It's just one part. And really? I think,
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. And I think the people look back on it and think, oh, it's all about the court case. It's not. The court case is actually a very small part of it. It's about growing up during that time. It's about what times were like during that time. It's what like race relations were like at that time. There's other things going on with the kids and with the way that they're raised and with the way that the father is a single father and the way he raises them and the way that he instills his beliefs in them. There's the way Boo Radley plays into the story as well. Boo Radley really is a bigger character than you think come to the end of the story. And you realize that the courtroom scene is what everybody kind of gravitates toward with that book, but it's just a small part of telling the overall story. It's a very impactful part of telling that story, but it's just one of the elements that's used to paint the whole picture. And that's why you really need to read the book. Like the book is it's an absolute American classic. And it's got so many different elements that are all kind of working together to paint this picture of what it was like to grow up then and what race relations are like and all this. And the most impactful thing to me was when you get to the very end of it, especially today, not much has changed, unfortunately. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when you realize that, when you read this book. And I think it was heartbreaking to people when it came out, and it's been heartbreaking for people ever since, but even more so now. How many years later, that it came out, 60 years after the book came out. And it's just still as impactful today. So the courtroom is just one part of the whole story. It's not, I wouldn't call it a complete courtroom movie.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
See, one of the things when I tell people I've never seen this movie is they're like, but what didn't you want to see the movie after you read the book in high school? And I said, I never read the book in high school. It was never part of the curriculum in any of the courses I took. And that in itself blows people away. Now, again, we're Canadian.
Yeah.
But, again, a lot of our curriculum drives from the U.S. And again, from what you're saying, this is an important book. It's a snapshot of time. There's an important lesson to be taught. Again, I know it's about racism. I don't really know a lot more than that, and I don't want you to tell me a lot more than that because eventually I will read the book and eventually I will see the movie. This is one of those ones that I absolutely have every intention of seeing someday, unlike every other movie I've said on the list Good, Bad, and the Ugly I may see one day, but Sound of Music, no desire. Car, no desire. Ace Ventura, no desire. Good, Bad, Ugly, take it or leave it. If it's on TV one night, maybe I'll watch it. But To Kill a Mockingbird is absolutely on my list of movies that I do want to see. I've never seen. I will see one day. But yeah, this one always surprises people when they say, oh, I've never seen it. And they get even more surprised when they say, I've never read the book.
I would strongly advise you to not watch the movie before you read the book.
Okay.
Seriously, I would read the book first.
Okay. I'm fairly certain my wife has a copy of this book in the house right now.
You're an avid reader, right? And you just mentioned that in the course of a year you read the three Lord of the Rings books, right? And knowing you probably knocked it off in a heck of a lot less than a year. You're
about a month or two, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're a quick reader. This book, you will fly through this book. It is unbelievable. The prose in this book is done in such a way that you will literally, and I'm a very slow reader. Like I tend to be very, very, very slow when I read. And sometimes I'll go back and read a page again to just reabsorb it. And I just take my time getting through a book. And sometimes I'll put it down and not go back to it for a long period of time. But I think you would pick up that book and probably zip through it in like a day. It's a very, very quick read. It really is.
I got a couple of weeks off coming up this summer where I'm going to sit by the pool.
There you
go. I mean, this may be a little bit heavy for pool reading, but, I'll make a point.
I really don't think it is. I don't think it is. Yeah.
By the end of the summer, I will read this book. And now there's a very good chance I'll read it before the end of that, but I will say to you, come September 1st, ask me if I've read this book, and I guarantee by then I will say I have read the book. I make that promise to you right now.
I cannot promise the same thing about the Lord of the Rings movies because I just don't have the time, unfortunately. But no, I hope that you do read the book. And it'll be interesting to hear your take on it. Okay, so my number one, this one you're not going to be happy with me. So I believe that these kids nowadays, that they refer to it as the Marvel Comics universe. Do I have that correct?
Oh my God, I know where this is going and I'm already hating you for it. Yes.
So
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, sorry, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, so this MCU, I guess, is what they call it.
Yes.
We're talking about what, the Avengers and like Iron Man, Black Panther, all those kind of movies.
15 to 20 movies out so far, Chris.
Yeah.
If you tell me you have not seen a single one of them,
is it
this
Aquaman?
may be the last episode. No, Aquaman is DC.
Okay, so there's like Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, all that stuff.
Yes.
I have never seen a single one of those movies. Not one.
God.
Not a single
one. Chris.
No, and then the sad thing is,
Chris,
yep.
I don't feel bad for you. I feel bad for your kids. Because these kids have to go to school with their friends who have said, hey, have you seen Iron Man? Have you seen the Hulk? Have you seen Thor? Have you seen Avengers? Guardians of the Galaxy? Black Panther? Ant-Man? And they're going to say, no, my dad makes us watch Happy Days.
Yeah, I've seen Fonzie jumping a shark.
And they're going to, Chris, you are putting your kids in a position where they are going to be the kids at school that get made fun of. You have to do this not for you, but for the betterment of your family. You need to sit them down.
Listen to this.
Starting with Iron Man or Captain America: The First Avenger. Both are acceptable entry points into this Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you need to have them watch these movies. And you need to watch them with them because you're the parent. You need to make sure they're not watching anything that's inappropriate, and they're all rated PG, so they're all pretty decent, although your 8-year-old might find some of the stuff a little violent. And you have to appreciate that this is where pop culture is these days. At the top of the show, we say, I'm Chris, and I think pop culture was awesome in the 80s, and screw the rest of you. Well, this is one of those times in my part where I say, Chris is wrong and needs to, like, open his eyes to the future. This is the future, Chris. You need to watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I want to go back and listen to the top of the show because I don't think I say I love pop culture from the 80s and screw the rest of you, but maybe I do. I have to go back and check that.
I read between the lines, man. That's what you're saying.
Oh, so it's all about the subtext. As far as I'm concerned, Caveman, superhero movies are limited to Superman and Superman 2, and I'm talking about the Christopher Reeve movies, and Batman from 1989 with Michael Keaton. That's it. No other super movie. They don't appeal to me in any other way.
Oh my God.
I know it's awful. I know it's bad. And the thing was, I was doing some research for the show and I went and took a look at like all-time box office grosses of films. And like, I was shocked, like just shocked at the number of movies that are like, you know, the Avengers and like Infinity War and Captain America and Guardians and all this crap that I've not seen.
Wait. How can you call them crap if you've never seen them?
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm calling you out on the BS, man.
That's fine.
Can't call them crap if you haven't seen them. Now, if you watch them and you then still think they're crap, I'll tell you you're wrong, but you can at least call them crap then.
That's fine. That's fine. Maybe I shouldn't have called them crap. I'll walk that one back. But okay. I mean, I haven't seen any of them, and to be honest, I don't have any desire to see any of them. And I know I got young kids, and they'll probably want to watch them, so I'm sure I'll get around to it at some point. But you know, like, but my kids, again, because I instill this stuff in them, and I know I'm guilty of that, they're more than happy to just like, let's watch Raiders of the Lost Ark again, you know, or whatever. And yep, haven't seen any of that stuff. Sorry, just hasn't happened. So.
Well, at least you apologized for it, so yeah, I'll give you that.
Anyway, time now to carry on. So we are now going to have some
fun with Caveman.
Okay, Caveman. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna hit you up with some trivia questions tonight. Okay, and these are based on like, you know, really, really kind of popular movies. You know, popular movies. You know, some of the most popular movies of all time. Okay. So. But maybe some of them you haven't seen. I don't know. We're going to find out. So my first question, if you adjust for inflation, what movie is the highest grossing film of all time?
Gone with the Wind.
Yes, very good. You're right. It is.
Which I've never seen.
And I have not seen it either.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Its adjusted gross is almost $2 billion. Like it's
I was
just,
going to say it was either Gone with the Wind or E.T., but I was pretty certain I've heard this question before, and I was pretty certain it was Gone with the Wind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Caveman. This Academy Award-winning film is considered by most people to be like a must-watch at least once a year. And it's often shown multiple times on like the network television stations, usually around Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. Can you name the film?
Well, when you said once a year, I was thinking Christmas, so I was thinking It's a Wonderful Life. But if you're saying now it's Thanksgiving...
It's a musical.
Wow, musical. You're right out of my wheelhouse now.
It won Best Picture in 1965.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
It's got a fellow Canadian Christopher Plummer in it. Julie Andrews sings in the mountains.
Wait.
You mentioned it earlier.
Sound of Music, 1960.
I've also never seen it either, by the way.
Wow. I only knew that because I'd written down Sound of Music 1965 on my list. If I had not written down the year, I wouldn't have got that.
Yeah. Okay, here's a movie for you. This film...
Wait. They
What's
show
that?
that at Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I
Is
think
it
it's like
Thanksgiving?
It's around Thanksgiving, because the only reason I remember that is like, as I mentioned earlier when you mentioned it, my mom and my sisters would watch it every friggin' year on TV, and it would be right around Thanksgiving. It would come on, and we'd have to watch The Sound of Music. I'd have to go in the other room and watch paint dry, and it was just, it was not fun. Thanksgiving was not fun for me.
Is the movie about that? I don't understand how that would equate to Thanksgiving.
I don't know.
The Nazis.
I know. I know. Go figure. But it seems to me, and you know, if anybody, tweet at me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall every year right around Thanksgiving they would just show it on network television all the time. Anyway.
Wow.
Okay. Next one.
Next.
This film, it jetted into theaters and became the highest grossing film of 1986. It also features a cast of actors that went on to star in such diverse movies as When Harry Met Sally, Mission Impossible, The Shawshank Redemption, and Batman Forever. Can you name this 1986 film?
No. Wow. No, I have no idea.
It jetted into theaters.
Top Gun.
Yay! There you go.
There we go.
I
was thinking Top Secret with Val Kilmer.
Oh,
I'm like,
very
that
good.
can't possibly. And then you're like, jetted. I'm like, wait, Val Kilmer was Iceman. He was in Top Gun.
Yep. I've also never seen it.
Really?
Never seen Top Gun.
Tony Scott.
Nope.
Top Gun. Tom Cruise.
No, it is
Wow.
I've never seen it.
Okay.
No. Okay, this movie featured Winona Ryder in her first major film role. It was originally titled House Ghosts by the studio, but director Tim Burton convinced the studio to change the title. Caveman, can you name this 1988 film?
Absolutely, I can. Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice.
Yes, I have also never seen it.
Wow, that was a good one too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this 1990 film featured characters such as Polly Cicero, Jimmy the Gent, and Tommy DeVito. Derek, can you name the 1990 movie that featured these characters?
They sound like they're like mafia style characters, so I'm gonna guess that it's Goodfellas.
It is, and guess what? Never seen it.
Oh man, Chris, you are like just killing all credibility with this trivia by admitting you've never seen these movies. You give me lots of great ideas for what we can watch in future podcasts.
You know, I watch Meatballs and Stripes over and over and over and over again. Okay, a franchise of 5 films started in 2003 and continued until 2017. The films were directed by Gore Verbinski, Rob Marshall, Espen Sandberg, and Joachim Ronning, and it was based on a famous theme park attraction. Can you name the movie franchise?
Was it Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes, it was. Congratulations.
Nice.
Very good.
Did they really make 5 of those movies?
Yep, and I've never seen a single one of them.
I definitely saw the first 3. I think 1 and 2 I saw in the theater, and 3 I think I saw on video. I had no idea they even made a 4 and 5.
Yeah. Okay, Steven Spielberg. You remember him from the last episode, Ready Player
Love
One?
it. Yep.
Yeah,
Ready
that
Player
was fun.
Yep, know all about him.
Okay, so Steven Spielberg directed this 2008 movie, which was the 4th installment in a franchise of films that took place between 1936 and 1957 and featured an ongoing pursuit of historical artifacts. Can you name the 2008 film?
Well, I'm torn. I think I know the answer to your question, but I think by vocalizing it, I legitimize it and give it power, which I don't want to do. So I will answer it. It's Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Yes, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah.
Something with Crystal Skull. It was terrible. It was so bad. It was a giant red X on what was otherwise a great trilogy.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is in my top 3 movies of all time, but I've never seen this movie.
Really, Chris? What other 2 movies might there be in that top 3 list? Could one of them perhaps be Jaws and the other one perhaps be Star Wars?
Oh, maybe. You never know.
You may have mentioned that on a podcast or 2 before, but I could be wrong.
But my point of it is that that's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I've never seen the Crystal Skull. Okay, final question. I'm going to give you a list of movies. Okay? When I'm done giving you the whole list, you just got to tell me what they all have in common. Okay? Green Book, The Shape of Water, Spotlight, Birdman, The Departed, The Artist, Chicago, and A Beautiful Mind.
Those all won Best Picture in the last, I want to say, 10 years or so.
Very, very good. They have. And one other aspect of all of those movies. Yep.
For the record, I've seen all of those movies except The Artist, which I believe was the wrong call.
Right.
Who watches a friggin' silent movie in 2000 and what movie that?
13, 14, I think it was.
13? Yeah. Like that's one of those ones where you look back and go, what were they thinking? Although people are already saying that about Shape of Water, which I kind of disagree with because I like that movie and I like Del Toro. But yes, The Artist, like for realsies, there was a lot of better picks than that. Anyway,
so yeah, no, all those movies won Best Picture, and also I have never seen any one of them.
Wow. Now, okay,
we're being honest, so
I'm not surprised because I know you haven't seen a movie that's come out in the last 20 years because it doesn't feature someone who was in an 80s drama or sitcom, but some of those movies you just read are actually quite good and were absolutely deserving of the Oscar that they won. And you should probably make a point of trying to see some of them.
Like which one? I think The Shape of Water I would watch. I have no desire to see Green Book or Spotlight. I don't even know what Spotlight is. Birdman, no desire. The Departed, no desire. The Artist, Chicago is a musical. Don't want to see it. Beautiful Mind, looks dumb.
Wow. Okay, well, I got nothing to add to that.
That's just my take on those. So anyway, so basically I also wrapped up during that whole trivia segment all movies that I haven't seen either. So I just kept adding to the list. Yeah. Hard to believe. Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'm chipping away at my credibility, as you say, in terms of a movie buff, but I'm solidifying my reputation as a Gen X guy that just keeps watching the same movies over and over again, baby. That's all I do.
Chris, can you give me just once for the record? Can you say, "Get off my lawn, you damn kid"?
Exactly. That's me. Just call me Gramps. Just call me Grandpa. Okay, so next episode, it's going to be my turn to nominate a film for you to watch and come back and review with me. I'm pretty sure you've already seen this, so it's all good. But we're going to go back all the way to 1980, Caveman. Next week, you and I are going to be faced with this situation. There's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes, it's dark out, and we're wearing sunglasses. What movie will we be watching?
We'll be watching The Blues Brothers.
Yes, we will. We are going to come back next episode, and we are going to review John Landis's classic 1980 film, The Blues Brothers. You ready to do that?
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I tell you what, until then, this is Chris McBrien on behalf of Derek Myers saying thank you very much for joining us again this week. Make sure you reach out to us on Twitter at @CMcBrien or at Amaron_DM. Until next time, this is Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World. You can contact Chris and Derek at popgoesyourworld.com. Please take a minute and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.